So we're continuing our season by season OHL history series, and today it's a pretty big milestone in the 1990-91 season as the OHL would expand to 16 teams, adding their very first US-based team, the Detroit CompuWare Ambassadors. Now, the CompuWare name, we've already had it once before in the OHL when it used to be the Windsor CompuWare Spitfires, and that's because they were owned by Peter Karmanos. So after Carmano sold the Windsor Spitfires, he was able to get a expansion team, and he would use his company name yet again. This time in his Detroit team. So the CompuWare Ambassadors, they would play out of the Cabo Arena, and that's where the Detroit Pistons of the NBA were playing at the time. And with Detroit now being added to the Ontario Hockey League circuit, that meant we needed some division realignment. So the Detroit Ambassadors, they would go right into the Ems division, and they would be joined by the Dukes of Hamilton. So they would move over from the Leyden to the Ems division, while the Sudbury Wolves and North Bay Centennials would both move over to the Leyden division. So some shifts here with the divisions, and we'll see how it all plays out, because it would still be the top six teams of each division would advance to the playoffs. And it would be the Oshawa Generals leading the charge in the Leyden division. They had a record of 47, 13, and 6, good for 100 points. And remember, this is after the Oshawa Generals won the OHL Championship and Memorial Cup in 1990, and Eric Lindros was a huge factor in how dominant the Oshawa Generals were here in the 90-91 season. Now, second in the division, the North Bay Centennials, record of 40, 23, and 3, good for 83 points. The Belleville Bulls would come third in the division, 38, 21, and 21 and 7 was their record for 83 points. The Ottawa 67s, they would come in fourth, 39, 25, and 2 is their record for 80 points. The Peterborough Petes, they would finish fifth in the division, 33, 26, and 7 for 73 points. And claiming the final playoff spot in the Leyden division would be the Sudbury Wolves, 33, 28, and 5, their record, 71 points. Now, the two teams missing the playoffs this season, the Cornwall Royals, they would finish 7th, 23, 42, and 1 for 47 points. And the Kingston Frontenacs at the bottom of the division, 15, 47, and 4 for 34 points. A pretty tough record there for the Kingston Frontenacs. Now looking at the Ems division, the Sioux Greyhounds had a great season. They finished first in the division, 42, 21, and 3 was their record for 87 points. The Niagara Falls Thunder, second with a record of 39, 18, and 9 for 87 points. The London Knights, they were third, 38, 25, and 3, their record for 79 points. The Windsor Spitfires, they would come in fourth, 33, 29, and 4 for 70 points. The Kitchener Rangers, fifth, 28, 30, and 8 was their record for 64 points. And the Dukes of Hamilton, claiming the final playoff spot in the Ems division. Not a great record, though, 17, 43, and 6 for 40 points. Now, the two teams missing the playoffs this year in the Ems division, the Owen Sound Platers, 13, 48, and 5 is their record for 31 points. And the Detroit CompuWare Ambassadors at the bottom of the division with a record of 11, 50, and 5, 27 points. And of course, since they're an expansion team, usually they have a tougher start to their organization's history. And the Detroit Ambassadors were no exception here. So in 1990-91, the Oshawa Generals, they were seen as a heavy favorite, with Eric Lindros playing a full season for the Generals before the 1991 NHL entry draft. 71 goals, 78 assists, 149 points. He was just unreal. Now, this was also the second and final season of the Dukes of Hamilton. And remember, they moved from Toronto to become the Dukes, and it just not able to work out. So they were having attendance issues. And so Copps Coliseum now losing their second OHL team. First, it was the Hamilton Steelhawks, and now the Dukes of Hamilton, as they would relocate to Guelph going into the 91-92 season. Now, when we look at the top scorers, I already touched on it, how Eric Lindros was dominant. He led the way with his 149 points. Second in scoring, Chris Taylor of the London Knights, 50 goals, 78 assists, 128 points. Todd Simon, third in scoring from the Niagara Falls Thunder, 51 goals, 74 assists, 125 points. Jason Winch of the Niagara Falls Thunder would be fourth, 40 goals, 82 assists, 122 points. Rob Pearson would split time between the Belleville Bulls and Oshawa Generals, 63 goals, 55 assists, 118 points. And I think what's more remarkable about Pearson's number is how he played just 51 games that season. And then we have Jason Firth of the Kitchener Rangers, 41 goals, 71 assists, 112 points. Joey St. Aubin from the Kitchener Rangers, 40 goals, 71 assists, 111 points. Brett Sagan of the Ottawa 67s, he would be eighth in scoring, 24 goals, 87 assists, 111 points. Jason Troni of the Cornwall Royals and Windsor Spitfires, 58 goals, 52 assists, 110 points. And rounding out the top 10, Jared Scaldi. He split time between Oshawa and Belleville, and he had 38 goals, 66 assists, 104 points. Now, going into the postseason, no change with the format, still a best of seven, and the top teams in either division would have a bye in the quarterfinal. So here in the division quarterfinals, the Sudbury Wolves playing the Oshawa Generals. Oshawa, they were a team on a mission. They would take out the Wolves in 5 games, while the North Bay Centennials complete the series sweep, the Peterborough Petes 4-0, and the Ottawa 67s with the upset over Belleville, winning that series in 6 games. Now, looking at the M's division, the Sioux Greyhounds, they would have no problems with the Dukes of Hamilton as they would complete the series sweep in the opening round. The Niagara Falls Thunder, they took care of Kitchener in 6 games, while the Windsor Spitfires upsetting the London Knights in 7 games. In the quarterfinal, the Oshawa Generals and Sioux Greyhounds would both have a bye, so that would leave the Ottawa 67s against North Bay in the quarterfinal. And the 67s, they would take care of business in 6 games, so an upset there in that series. And then the Niagara Falls Thunder complete the series sweep of the Windsor Spitfires. And once again, the Thunder find themselves in the semifinal competing in the division championship. And in that third round, we would see the Oshawa Generals take out the Ottawa 67s in 5 games, while the Sioux Greyhounds, they would take care of the Niagara Falls Thunder with a 4-game series sweep. In the final for the J. Ross Robertson Cup, despite Oshawa being so dominant that season, the Sioux Greyhounds, they would have the upper hand. And remember, it was the Greyhounds who drafted Eric Lindros first overall. He didn't want to play there. He didn't want to report. And now he's not able to get the back-to-back championships in the OHL as the Greyhounds would win this series in 6 games. So quite remarkable what the Sioux Greyhounds were able to do. And you have to imagine that was in the back of the mind of this team that, Eric Lindros not wanting to play for them, and probably that was a motivation during that season and in that playoff march all the way to the 1991 OHL Championship. So in the Memorial Cup, it was held in Quebec City, and it would be the Beauport Harfangs. They were supposed to host the Memorial Cup, but they dropped out after failing to make the playoffs, just like the Dukes of Hamilton the year prior. Now, Chicoutimi and Drummondville, they would represent the QMJHL, while Spokane, the Chiefs, they would be there for the WHL against the Sioux Greyhounds. Now, unfortunately for the Sioux, it was a short-lived tournament. They would go 0-3 in the round robin, and the Spokane Chiefs, they would become the second U.S.-based team to win the Memorial Cup. So a great storyline there for the Sioux Greyhounds to march their way to the OHL final to take out an Oshawa Generals team that was just loaded in the 1991 season, but not able to get the job done in the Memorial Cup. But don't worry, this isn't the last time we're going to be talking about the Greyhounds when it comes to the Memorial Cup. Looking at the award winners from this season, Red Tilson and the Eddie Powers both went to Eric Lindros. No surprise there. George Burnett, remember, he was named the head coach of the Niagara Falls Thunder. He would win the Matt Layden Trophy, while the Jim Mahon Memorial Trophy went to Rob Pearson of the Oshawa Generals. The Max Kaminsky Trophy went to Chris Snell of the Ottawa 67s. Your goaltender of the year, Mike Torchia of the Kitchener Rangers. The Jack Ferguson Award went to Todd Harvey of the Detroit CompuWare Ambassadors. The M's Family Award, Corey Stillman of the Windsor Spitfires, Rookie of the Year. And of course, Corey Stillman, now the head coach of the Guelph Storm. So it is fun just to see some of the names and where those players have gone in their careers and where they are today. Just like George Burnett and Corey Stillman, who are both with the Guelph Storm organization at the time of recording. So that's the 1990-91 season. It was a lot of drama with the Greyhounds and the Generals battling it out. And the OHL now has its very first U.S.-based team, although the Detroit Ambassadors, not the greatest of seasons to start as a franchise. But we'll be hearing more about them as we continue with this history series. And just a reminder, I do have a playlist on the channel where you can find all the seasons as we go along. over the course of the history of the Ontario Hockey League, starting back in 1980-81, as that's where the Ontario Hockey League, as we know it today, got its start. So again, thank you very much for all your support. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. And if you have a memory from the 1991 season, put it down in the comments below, as this is just a summary, and maybe we can all fill in the gaps as a community of junior hockey fans here on the channel. So again, thank you very much for your support, and we'll talk to you again soon.